Alrighty, guys. Welcome into the After Schrock. Going to go ahead and get my comment stream up and running here so that I have a good idea what's going on. At least I can respond to your questions that way. Of course, my own stream isn't available yet, and now it is. Am I the first person? Be the first person. I am the first person. Love it. All right. I should be the first person. I'm the one that knows when it's going on. So we're going to give everybody a couple seconds to get connected before we dive into everything we're going to do today. Of course, as always, if you have questions, comments, things like that, please post them over on the side over here in the comment section. I will try to break more frequently. The last couple of weeks, the aftershocks have gotten incredibly long, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We're going to try to keep this one a little reasonably shorter. You know, there's something to be said for scarcity, right? I mean, come on, too much of a good thing, right? But, you know, I've noticed that the longer we go, the viewership kind of tends to trail off a little bit. It's, you know, long format is long format. Unless your content is extraordinarily great, which, you know, mine's okay, but I don't know about extraordinary. You know, you don't want to go that long. So we're going to try to shorten it up just a little bit. I'll be a little more concise, a few less random neuron firings, and then try to stay on topic. But let's start off by welcoming people who are coming in for the program today. Paul's here. Good to have you. Mary, Roger's back. Steve is here and Russell as well. Okay, good. Everybody's getting here. Hey, Aaron. All right. Nettie's here too. Thomas is here. Everybody's coming in. Everybody's pouring in now. Good to have you guys. All right, so went a little bit deeper into AI on that show that I wanted to. We still didn't get to the Schrock business segment. There's just so many callers, and the callers make the show. So it's like if you don't have calls, you can go for a long time on stuff. So here's the deal. A quick program note. Family and I are going to Tennessee next week for a family vacation, because that's what you do in June, right? So next week's show will be taped. It will be a recorded show, which is why we're going to do the AI deep dive next week, because that is something that I can record and play for you at a later time. And, you know, it's not, when I have to record a show, I always try to wait to the last minute before I leave so that the news that I'm talking about is the freshest, newest, most current stuff that's going on. Don't need to do that with the AI program. We already know what's going to happen with AI. And I have to tell you guys, you know, I don't want you to think I'm getting stuck on the hype train for AI here. Like, especially the investing hype train. You had the CEO of NVIDIA at a company event, basically unveiling new processors, and in the meet and greet after the event, which is essentially a stock call, basically it's a company call on, you know, what they're going to be introducing in the next quarter and stuff like that. Women were approaching this guy and asking him if he would sign their breasts. So when you have the CEO of NVIDIA literally signing boobs at a company function because he's so popular, that sounds awful frothy, like market top, you know. Where do you go from there? I don't want to know. But gosh, you know, it just seems like the hype. I still don't own any AMD or any NVIDIA stock. I can't. I'm like, how many times multiple of earnings is that? I mean, how many years would you have to wait for to get a return on your investment? I mean, this is, and of course everyone's buying it because everybody thinks people are going to keep buying it and the price is just going to keep going up. That's why I didn't buy it $600 a share, which I wish I would have now, because if I would have only known that the train was going to keep going, right, that kind of thing. I do own some AMD because they're going to be a player in this, whether it's their graphics cards or processors, and they're usually a very good niche player. Like they can find a spot and they can own it. I don't have any Intel stock because Intel's going to screw this up like they screw everything else up, and they're going to sell it for it's going to be too expensive, and it's not going to work as well. So yeah, so Intel's going to introduce incredibly expensive AI processors that AMD is going to literally lap on their first release, and AMD's chips are going to be half the cost of Intel's. Who's going to sell more chips? Who's going to make more money? Just saying. So anyway, the AI stuff, the hype around it. AI is going to do everything, and AI is going to take your job, and AI is going to do this, and is AI really worth it, or are we spending more than we're getting? And we don't have enough power to run AI. We don't have enough data centers to hold the data. Well, guess what? The industry's not stupid, guys. They have a workaround for that. Rather than adding a whole data center to process all your stuff, and basically you're a source of data, sending information to the data center that then processes it and spits out an AI response, kind of like ChatGPT. It runs in the cloud, right? The future world of your future world of AI, it's going to run right there on your desktop, on your laptop, on your phone. They're going to use the batteries. They're going to use your power. They're going to use your internet. They're going to use your processing capability to do AI. They're going to craft the AI products that you are going to want to buy. Because this is the browser wars all over again. Internet Explorer, Netscape Navigator, Google Chrome won that. This is the search engine wars all over again. You had AOL search and Yahoo search and Alta Vista and Google, and then Google won that one. Now you've got the AI race and the AI wars. Shouldn't say AI wars. You really shouldn't say that because they're going to kill us, right? But the AI race is basically now you've got NVIDIA. NVIDIA is they're the picks and the shovels. They're making the chips. They're making the AI possible. But the companies that are actually making the AI products that you're going to want to use are Adobe and Microsoft and maybe Apple if they announce some stuff here this week at their big event. So, these are the companies that are going to be doing stuff. I was talking before the show with Bill, the producer, and I was like, Apple's level of it's kind of scary because Samsung even has AI products coming out for existing phones, and Apple has nothing. Like there is no AI on Apple. If you have Apple TV, it can't even suggest what show for you to watch next based on what you watched in the past. Like that's where they're at in the AI world, non-existent. So they got a lot of catching up to do. So Apple isn't usually a catch-up company. They're supposed to be an innovative market leader, but since Steve Jobs died, everything has just been an incremental upgrade on the previous thing before it. The only thing new that they've launched is Apple Vision, which arguably was a flop for a lot of reasons. So the AI stuff, next week is going to be a tape show. It's going to be the AI deep dive, and we're going to go into a lot of different aspects of what this has. Now, I know a lot of you are going to have questions about this because we were talking about it on the show, and it's a really intriguing idea that you can be more productive, that the things that you do now that take you 5 or 10 minutes to do could take you 30 seconds to do in the future because your computer is assisting you. There's all kinds of implications on this, though. So think about that. I talked about Microsoft Recall. If you missed the show, Microsoft Recall takes a screenshot every 5 seconds of what's on your screen and then analyzes that with AI on your local computer to build basically a database of moments. And then what it can do is, if you give it a brief description of what you're looking for, it can go back through your entire usage of your entire computer forever and find what you're looking for and then take you back to it. Microsoft Recall. Incredibly powerful. Incredibly capable. Imagine if you were reading a scientific journal or a legal document, and you hit a page and you read it, and they take a screenshot of it, and you hit the next page and you read it, and then Recall takes a screenshot. Literally, you could say, there was a contract I was looking at that had a clause in it about indemnification. Where is that at? And it'll go back in time and find the document on your hard drive that has that clause in it and open the document for you. I mean, it's got some real potential. It's also really friggin' scary. Because if you can go back in time and search everything you've ever looked at on your computer, right now, of course, it's all encrypted and it's all saved on your hard drive and blah, 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 it's all super safe, whatever. Just like, remember in the 90s, when people started to use encryption for the first time, and it freaked out everybody in government because we have to be able to see what our people are saying. Even though they have a constitutional right for us not to see what they're saying, or to read what they're writing or thinking their thoughts, we need to know what they're thinking. We need to know what they're writing. We need to know what crimes they might be committing. This is for the safety. This is for law enforcement. You're anti-cop if you don't believe that we should have a back door into all encryption so that the government can decrypt anything. encryption companies argue, you put a backdoor in the software, someone's going to find it. And then what's the point of encryption? So it's the same thing. We're going to have here is a situation where literally, guys, and we'll go into this in the show next week, there are biometric safeguards that will prevent anybody from using your Microsoft recall unless your face is physically in front of your computer and you're identified through Windows Hello. Now, okay, right there. Not every Windows 11 computer that has a webcam can do Windows Hello. You have to have the low light, you have to have a holiday special webcam, quality webcam. A standard webcam doesn't do Windows Hello. That's where you log in with your face. You don't have to have a PIN number. So if your biometrics aren't present, you can't use Microsoft Recall. So now, not only do you have to have a laptop that has either an AI coprocessor, like a Snapdragon processor, or has an NVIDIA card that's 4000 series or higher, now you also have to have a webcam that is high enough quality to do Windows Hello just to access it. So the theory here is unless you're sitting in front of the computer yourself personally, nobody can access your recall, including the government. Well, how long do you think how long until someone in the government says, we need Microsoft to build a backdoor into recall so that we can access people's recalls for, if there's a court case, we bring them into court, we have to be able to access that. We have to be able to subpoena that. And they can't hand it over because we can't just look at it while they're sitting in front of their computer. We have to be able to look at it, the totality of their internet browsing, the totality of their document creation, the totality of everything you have ever done on a computer screen, ever. We need to be able to search that because we're the government. So there's a scary side to this too, right? Now, not to mention the logistics side. You're going to take screenshots. I don't think they're going to save the screenshots forever. I don't think they can, right? So it's like they're going to take a screenshot and then they're going to analyze that screenshot and create a database on the local computer that doesn't have the picture in it, but has all the data from the picture in it, like what was on the screen. Whew. Wow. That database is going to get really big. And what happens when you buy a new computer? If it's saved on your local computer, is Microsoft really going to just start over with a brand new database when you get a brand new computer? Or is there going to be a way to migrate your database to your new computer? Because you're going to have to migrate all those documents too, right? Because it doesn't do us any good for recall to find a document that you've deleted. So maybe it'll show you like this was the document and then here is you moving it to the recycle bin, You deleted it, dumbass, it's gone. We can't recall it for you. But you combine this with file history, for example, and suddenly you can. But now all of a sudden, what most of our customers are just fine on 256 gig hard drives. But now do you need the terabyte drive, the 1000 gigabyte hard drive? Because you're saving all these databases and pictures and everything else. What are the actual hardware requirements, not just to use the AI tech, but to support the tech without uploading everything to the cloud? Because Microsoft doesn't want to pay for that data center, especially when you can be your own little mini data center. And Microsoft can access all that information aggregatedly anytime they want, in theory. Possibly. But you have to be in front of your computer to activate it. So yeah, I don't know exactly how that all works. They're going to have another release on it. They're basically, Copilot is going to be, the Copilot AI is going to be released to the public as a preview. It's an optional download that you can get as an optional update to your computer that will allow you to do these things. And then that preview is going to determine how the product is structured. Microsoft is already, like all that stuff I told you about Windows Hello, that happened in the last week because security researchers came along and said this is a privacy friggin' nightmare because anybody could sit in front of your computer and access this. Ooh, yeah, we didn't think about that. We got so wrapped up in making a cool AI product, we didn't think about the security aspect of it. Shoot. Okay, so let's leverage Windows Hello. It'll add a second layer of encryption on top. So it's not only encrypted, it's double encrypted, and it's only unlocked by your biometrics. Security researchers said that's reasonable. That's a reasonable response to that. Keeping it secure. All right, so let me jump into the comments here real fast, and then Then I want to talk to you about like what some of the internal conversations we're having at Schrock right now about what we want to build, how we're going to do this, and how we can make it affordable and what kind of price points we're looking at to do it. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, but we're looking at doing something very soon. So I'll talk to you about that in just a second here. All right, so we're back into comments. Good morning, Cheryl and Rich. Carolyn is here as well. Good morning. May all of Schrockville have a great day. Well, I love that. Thank you, Mark. Karen and Roger are back. I love Karen and Roger. I love that you guys are always together. You and like people are. They look at me and my wife, me and the lovely Kimberly, and they're like, "Don't you guys get tired of each other? Like, you're always together." And we're like, "No, that's kind of like why we got married, you know." And you know, different relationships, different people, different things work. But you know, we'll have people say, well, like, you know, you each need your own hobbies that take you apart from each other. And yes, at the end of the day, my wife may go up and take a hot bath, and I may sit down and play a video game or something, you know. But we're not avoiding each other for the sake of avoiding each other, like people would suggest. In you know, marriages, you have to have some time apart, you know, otherwise, you know, you're going to get on each other's nerves. I can't imagine a better future than being able to just retire and go travel with my wife and go see cool things and experience things, do all the stuff, and have her with me. That would just be amazing. So I don't know. I just saw, you know, every week Roger posts that Karen and Roger are back with you. Karen and I are back, and it just made me think of that. So I love that you guys are always together like that. James is back as well. Paul, LOL. I want to be a tech CEO. I'm not even a tech CEO. I'm a tech president. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't call myself CEO. So like when you're starting a company, right? So now we're big. We're bigger, right? We're big enough that, you know, we might actually need a CEO. So it'd be reasonable for Schrock Innovations to have a chief operating officer and a chief executive officer, maybe separate from a president. You know, those things might make sense. But when you're just starting a company and you have like, you know, 20 grand in sales on a year and you're like, I'm killing it. I'm the only employee and I'm the CEO, baby, you know. It just seems kind of pompous to print that on your card. You're like one of those people that is like a master of art history, and you put your name on a document and you type comma like MS afterward. You're just pompous. Don't do that. If you're applying for a job, people look at that and they're like, well, that person's an arrogant piece of, we're not going to hire them. You know, so I don't know, calling yourself CEO, I never got comfortable with that, ever. Like president, okay, I can go with president. You know, honorable, all-knowing leader, emperor of highest accord, you know. It's just CEO, chief executive officer. Like there's a secondary executive officer. You know, no, I'm the only person in the company. So anyway, I just never got comfortable with it. Are you still upgrading Drive Advisor when someone brings in their computer for a maintenance checkup? All right. That's great. Great question, Ralph. So we did, during the maintenance checkup sale, we thought we had Drive Advisor like ready to go. So we started doing controlled installations where the guys would upgrade on the bench. Rather than broadcast it out to everybody, we said, let's do a sample first. So on the bench, they installed it on a computer, and it would work fine on one computer, and on a second computer, it would not work at all. And on a third computer, it would work fine. And on a fourth computer, it would work fine. And on a fifth computer, it wouldn't work at all. And then we were trying to figure out what about these two computers was keeping it from working. And that sent it back into development again, because obviously you can't have a 20% failure rate on a piece of software. That's not going to work. So basically, what we have done in the last month is we've eliminated hundreds of lines of code from Drive Advisor. We've tightened the code considerably. As we track down bugs and things like that, we find other ways that we can optimize the code. We have one issue remaining, and that issue right now is if you're not a Schrock customer, the new Drive Advisor works great. It works perfectly. If you are a Schrock customer, when you install it in our service centers only, if you did it at home, you'd be fine. But in our service centers, when it comes into the service center, it says, what is the Schrock tag for this computer? So we're basically electronically tagging your computer, which has massive benefits to you down the road in the Schrock ecosystem. Now we know. Customers have said, Thor, it'd be really nice if there was a way that you could tell me when I'm doing my renewal which computer I'm renewing Sophos on, like which device it is. Well, guess what? Now we'll know because we tagged your device. And same thing with Secure Updater. And same thing with our backup software we're working on. And same thing with all the other stuff that's going on at Schrock. All of our software is going to key into that asset tag, that Schrock tag, that sticker we put on the bottom of your computer when you come in. So if you're in our service center, we know you have a sticker. So Drive Advisor says, I'm on a Schrock IP address, therefore there should be a sticker. Therefore, what is the sticker's number? And we type it in. So that way if you upgrade at home, or you install it at home and you're not on a Schrock IP, when you bring it in for a maintenance checkup, when we boot the computer, the program will load up and say, what is the tag number? And we'll put in the tag number. So anyway, that system is broken. That system is not working. We have spent a ton of time tracking the code. It turns out there's an error in a DLL file we created called working.dll. And right now we're digging through the source code of that DLL file to figure out where the error is. But once we have that wrapped up, guys, this thing is ready to rock and roll. It's literally the last thing that we have to fix. So we are not installing Drive Advisor right now on people's computers because of that issue specifically. But once we have that issue resolved, like I said, it's going to go out to everybody. Anybody who has the old Drive Advisor will automatically get upgraded to the new one. It's going to do an auto update. Anybody who downloads from the website will replace the website version with the new version. So you can download it from the website. You'll get it that way. If you have Secure Updater on your computer, it also updates Drive Advisor, so you'll get it that way as well. So there's lots of different ways you're going to get Drive Advisor, but you're going to get Drive Advisor. Benefits to the new Drive Advisor. It reads NVMe disks. Some of the new Gen 3, 4, and 5 NVMe disks do not have smart data. And the old Drive Advisor was created at a time when every hard drive had smart data that we could read. Well, it's not there anymore. So now we had to create new algorithms about drive health and how it's measured. We had to change the way that it reports drive health to you because we always gave you a percentage before. So 100% is a healthy drive. Anything under 100% is a bad drive. But that's not the case with solid state drives. You can have a wear level going down below 80% of health on a solid state NVMe drive and have a perfectly healthy hard drive. It's just got some wear and tear on it. But when that drops below 80, then we start impacting the health reading a little bit. Then it's time to start thinking about replacing that drive because you're beating it up too much, that kind of stuff. It's also going to monitor your laptop battery. It's going to tell you if your battery is good or bad. The laptop that I have here is a 2-year-old holiday special laptop that I broadcast the show with. Holiday special from 2 years ago. My battery is at 82% health, according to the new Drive Advisor. When it drops below 80, I'm going to get an alert that it's time to replace the battery, to prevent it from swelling, to prevent it from catching on fire, to keep the laptop running on battery in the event of a power outage during the show. Those are all important things. So anyway, the new Drive Advisor is going to do all that for you. And then eventually, what this is going to do is it's going to tie into an entire Schrock app ecosystem. So we're going to have one app for Drive Advisor, Secure Updater. We're creating some backup software. I don't want to talk about that too much because we're still in the secret sauce area of creating that. What we intend to do with that is pretty cool, though, for businesses and for consumers. Maybe the AI stuff will upend that a little bit. I don't know. But anyway, that's what's going on there. Good morning, Elizabeth. Good to see you. Randy is here. Hey, Thor. After Microsoft decided my 1.5-year-old gaming laptop couldn't be upgraded or supported after next year, I decided with all the bloatware, ads, and AI stuff, I'd probably switch to Linux. My question is, sorry, I have to click see more. Will Sophos work with that system? Yes. We have Sophos for Linux. We have Sophos for Mac. We have Sophos for PC. We have Sophos for servers. We got you covered. So if you're a Sophos subscriber and you switch your operating system to Linux, just give us a call. We'll remove the old endpoint for Windows and get you installed with a Linux endpoint. Straight up. It's pretty easy stuff. I can't say we do too many Linux installs, but most people who run Linux have the opinion that they're talented enough that if they got a virus, they would just deal with it. The reason that your system is not Windows 11 compatible and is going to die in October of 25 is because it doesn't support the higher end security requirements that are required by Windows 11. It doesn't have the TPM technology and everything else to ensure that no one pulls your hard drive out of your laptop and sticks it in another laptop and then gets their data off of it, stuff like that. There's different I won't go into all the details, but security requirements that Windows 11 has that Windows 10 does not have. Now, with that said, if you're at the point where you're ready to go to Linux, if you want to screw around with it, you can get a Windows 11 install that bypasses all the security. So that's pretty fun. I'm trying to think of the name of the utility. I've been trying to think of it the whole time I've been talking, and I can't think of it. But there's a utility that we can, and the guys know it in the shop. Rufus. It's Rufus, R-U-F-U-S. And what it does is it makes bootable flash drives. So what you can say is, I want to make a Windows 11 bootable flash drive, and you uncheck all the security check requirements, and it'll make a flash drive to install Windows 11 for you that has no security checks or no checks for security compliance. Now and it'll run. Windows 11 will run on it. Now the question is, it'll even run on processors that aren't supposed to run it. Sometimes you get a blue screen because if your processor is super old, it just isn't going to work. But if you have like a 7th gen Intel processor, and 8th gen is the cutoff, but if you have a 7th gen, it'll work. So the question though is like, what happens when you get a Windows update then? If like Microsoft releases a new version of Windows 11 and you get the update, is it going to break? And the answer is yes, it will. You'll have to do the Rufus thing every time there's a new version of Windows 11. But you'll be able to use your old computer. So anyway, it will still be less work than going to Linux. Good morning, Marion. Paul is here as well. So basically a giant botnet. I think you're talking about Microsoft Recall. It's kind of like a botnet. It's decentralized the processing of it so that Microsoft doesn't have to build a data center to process all of your stuff. It heads off a lot of privacy concerns because your data, the actual images of what you're looking at on your screen, are not being transmitted to Microsoft. So what that means is there's no risk of a man-in-the-middle attack where somebody's intercepting your web traffic and seeing screenshots of everything. There's no ability to subpoena Microsoft. The government can't go to Microsoft and say, we need to see what's in this guy's recall, because Microsoft doesn't have that data. It's stored on your local computer. And it gives you the ability to destroy that data on your local computer should you choose to do so. So it's kind of like a botnet, but they're decentralizing the processing. But in a lot of ways, a botnet has a negative connotation, like you're using a network of computers to attack other computers. This is like using a network of computers to protect each computer's individual privacy. It's almost more like an antivirus than a botnet. But I see where you were going with the comparison. AI sounds like something out of the Terminator movie. Well, it does sometimes, doesn't it? Good morning, Paul. My question about recall. So I'm seriously looking at making a move to Linux. Which Linux OS can run Windows programs? There isn't one. Linux is a completely different operating system. You're not going to be running any Windows software on Linux. You can get emulators. You can basically emulate, so you can have Linux, and inside Linux you can run an instance of Windows 7, for example, or Windows 10. But then why wouldn't you just run Windows? I mean, if you're going to use Linux to emulate this, it doesn't make much sense, right? Because the reason that your Windows 10 is going away in 2025 is because it's not going to be secure anymore. There's no more updates for it. So whether you run an emulated version of Windows 10 or you run a real version of Windows 10, it doesn't make a difference. You can't get the updates. You're not secure. If you go on the internet, you're going to get hacked. At least you can close your virtual machine, though, and then anything that got hacked in that Windows environment is locked into the Windows environment. It's not going to make it through to Linux. So that's one benefit. But if you switch to Linux, there's lots of software available for Linux. And this is why it's kind of like if you have an iPhone and you switch to Android. You can do everything that you can do with an iPhone on Android, except for maybe iMessage. But then you can get Signal, and then there's an app for that. So you can accomplish the same goals. You just might have to use a different piece of software to get there than what you're used to using. You're not going to use Microsoft Office on Linux. You're going to use OpenOffice or LibreOffice or something else that accomplishes the same goal. Aaron says, AI is going to make it a lot easier for the government to scan through someone's computer for illegal stuff. Well, that was the fear, Aaron. That was the fear. The original version of Recall would have allowed that very easily. And that's why a really prominent security researcher came out and literally just torpedoed Recall. And Microsoft went into like 4-alarm fire freak out mode. And then they introduced all the Windows Hello encryption algorithms on top of it. And basically, it's going to be another hardware restriction. So you're going to say, great, I want to do AI, and I've got a gaming laptop. I got an Asus ROG Strix gaming laptop, but it's got a crappy webcam because they just assumed I wouldn't be doing frigging Zoom calls on it. So, yeah, I can't use AI because I can't sign into Windows Hello because it can't see my face in the dark because it doesn't have an IR camera. Dang it. If only I would have known, I wouldn't have spent $2,000 on this laptop that can't sign me into my AI. So, I mean, those are the kind of considerations that people aren't going to think of when they're going out and buying a new laptop. When is the last time you even asked, like, what's the resolution of the front-facing camera? Does it have an IR camera or just a regular camera? You don't ask those questions. Like the holiday specials you get, those have IR cameras. They're nice laptops. You know, you get an Intrepid, it's not going to have an IR cam. It's an $800 laptop. It doesn't come with an IR cam. So that's what I'm getting at, guys, is like the cost of computers that have AI capabilities in the beginning is going to be frigging astronomical. So we're sitting around at Schrock, and this is one of the things we wanted to talk about today. We're saying, okay, we know that the new processors that are coming out, while they will be new, they're not going to be as computationally powerful as some of the processors we have now. If they are more powerful, it will just be fractionally more powerful. We know that those new processors are going to require a specialized socket on the motherboard. The reason that we go with AMD chips in all of our modular desktops, guys, is because AMD stays with the same socket for years. They were on the AM4 socket for as long as I can. DDR4 memory has been around. I mean, it's literally AM4 has been the socket, which is why when you have a modular computer that you bought 6 years ago from us and it says, oh, not compatible with Windows 11, we can change one chip. Sometimes it's just one chip. And all of a sudden you're compatible with Windows 11 because it's the same socket. We can just put a new chip in the board. Yay, upgrade. If we switch to a new socket, the new chips can't go in the old boards. So there's an advantage if we can stay with the AM5 socket, which is the new one that's out. That's what we did the holiday special, was AM5. And when we do our new model line computers, we're probably going to move all of them but the Boundless to AM5. Why haven't we done it already? AM5 chips are expensive. AM5 boards are more expensive. They all cost more. And right now, in this inflationary environment that everybody's in, the last thing we want to do is have your computer cost 15% more for a nominal performance increase. Nominal for what you're going to see. So anyway, we go through, we do all this stuff. We try to plan out a computer that's going to meet your needs, that's going to be affordable. And now we have to add the added, you got to be kidding me. It's got to have a webcam for Windows Hello. So you have to have a webcam. Not a junky one either. It's got to be one that is compatible with Windows Hello. And you got to have a 4000 series NVIDIA graphics card, an RTX card. We had a caller or a person point out on the Facebook feed during the radio show, the 4060 is a card you can play Call of Duty on. Maybe not at max graphics settings, but it's a respectable card. Yeah, guys, it's current gen tech. It's the entry model card for desktops. It requires supplemental power because it can't draw its power through the motherboard. It's too much power. You have to upgrade the power supply. Most of our computers come with a 450 watt power supply. We're going to have to go up to like 700 watts to make sure, because the card can draw 450 by itself. And AMD board and chip, we don't use the low power chips, guys. We ain't into that green stuff. We want horsepower, right? I drive a Mustang. All right, I'm putting premium in it and I'm burning it fast. I think I'm going to peel out of the parking lot later just to burn a couple gallons of gas on the way out onto Underwood Street. Then I'll have to slow down because, it's Underwood Street. But you get what I'm saying, right? These are not energy hyper efficient machines because we wanted power in a holiday special. So we use a 125 watt processor. So a 450 watt power supply, when you're taking a graphics card that peak wattage will take 450, and then you need another 150 for the board and the processor, plus any drives or anything you have going on, plus any devices you have plugged in that are pulling power. you don't want to run out of power and have the computer lock up because it runs out of juice at random times when it's being pushed. So we're going to have to upgrade the power supply. So we sat down and we're like, one of the things we talked about doing in our manager meeting is we don't have any computer sales that fall between the ultimate upgrade in the spring and the holiday special in the fall. There's no summer computer sale event of any kind. We don't do a Father's Day special. We don't do the Memorial Day mattress sale kind of thing. We just don't have a computer special in the summertime because lots of people aren't around. And what we have found is that when we introduce specials in the summertime, they don't do well. So we don't have a lot of sales in the summertime because of that. Why would you put a product on sale when you don't have anybody looking for it? So what we're going to do this time around, we're going to do a back to school sale. We're still working out the details on what we're going to offer. But here's the challenge. So you could be going to school to be an education major. And if you're going to school to be an education major, you might have a really tough time looking at the AI world around you saying how it's going to make your life different or better. We're going to address that next week on the main show. You could also be going to college to be an engineer, and you're going to be using AutoCAD, and there are immense AI possibilities for design, construction, building, like all those things, Photoshop, all those things, anything that's knowledge work or creative work on a computer, AI is going to be instrumental with. Now, when you go to school, this AI stuff is all new, guys. It's all brand new. My niece is going to school for education. And I said, well, shoot, she'll probably need a Mac, actually. I probably don't want to give her a PC. She'll probably need a Mac because, Macs in schools, right? No, actually. When did Apple lose their grip on the school system? The kids all have iPads, but when it comes to computers, they're all using PCs. Because guess what? When you get out into the real world, unless you're in one of those niche industries that Apple does really well with, like, videography, things like that, even if you're doing videography or photo work, you might still be using a PC. So when you get out into the real world, you're in your college bubble, right? AI is all new right now, so it has not been integrated in college programs. It's not in the curriculum. The professors are still struggling with how to deal with detecting ChatGPT written papers, which if you've read something that ChatGPT has written, it's not hard to spot. You can find it. It's pretty easy, right? So they're still struggling with that, let alone the idea of, okay, this is my big brain. It's taking a picture of whatever is on my screen every 5 minutes, right? What if I turn my camera around and film the notes? I just have it camera feed to my computer desktop. I don't even have to record it. Just the camera feed. So I'm still paying attention. I'm still sitting in class, but my computer is watching each slide that goes by for the notes. And then later after class, I could ask my AI to compile me a summary of the notes from class that day. Or I can tell it what elements I need in a study guide that work for me and ask it to create a study guide based on what was on the screen that day. Guys, this is where we're going with this. I mean, this has the potential. How long would it take you to make the flashcards so you could study? How long would it take you to write the notes? And you're not engaged when you're writing. For me anyway, when I'm taking notes about something, my brain is not engaged. I mean, I'm processing, right? I'm saying there's information. I'm taking the information, I'm putting it in my brain, and it's coming out of my hand onto the paper. But at the end of the day, I haven't actually thought about what I wrote. This is the difference when you go to a meeting. If you're sitting in a meeting and you're taking notes the entire time about what everybody is saying, like you're the secretary of the meeting, it's really hard to sit back and say, I like where you're going with this, Microsoft, with this recall thing, but have you considered the security implications? Because I'm just sitting here, I'm thinking, this is really amazing. You could go back and find anything you wanted in your entire life. And then, ooh, the government could go back and find anything it wanted in your entire life. Oh. Right? So when I imagine having AI that can do all the monkey work for you so that you can engage your brain on the conceptual ideas, so you can do creative thought, things that AI can't do yet or maybe ever. That's the real potential. So if we're sending a kid to school, if we're having a back to school sale for college kids, basically, what kind of a computer do they need? By the end of time, so you're going to go to college for 4 years, right? So let's call it 5 years total between getting to college, getting through college, and getting a job, okay? 5 years. In a 5-year period, that's why next week we're going to go back to 2019 and say 5 years ago, this is where technology was at. This is what was normal 5 years ago. And we're all going to laugh because it's stupid now. Let me give you one example. Streaming. 2019, there were 2 major streaming companies, Amazon and Netflix. And you aren't going to cancel your cable subscription because you have Netflix, because you're going to lose your local news channels. You're going to lose. I mean, I have all these channels I can watch on cable, and on Netflix, I just have a list of shows. It was a different way of consuming content. So you tune in every week for your episode of Miami Vice, and you watch the episode. And if you missed one, maybe you DVR'd it and you recorded it. It was kind of like the VCR, but it was digital. And that's how we have been, as adults, that's how we have all been trained to consume media. Well, the streaming method was completely different. Now Netflix drops a show, you can binge watch that sucker in a day and just watch it and enjoy the show. Like really enjoy it for a day and consume that content. And then you liked it so much, it was so fun, you want to find another show. So you start exploring shows that you may have never found on cable because you weren't just cruising through the channels late at night and saw some Viking show and you're like, oh, let's check this out. Wow, this Vikings Valhalla show is pretty cool. You would have never found it. So the way we consume content in 2019 was radically different than the way we consume it now. In 2019, Disney was full on board with the cable model. They were investing in ESPN because people who wanted sports would subscribe to the ESPN package on the cable channel. And that's where they were getting their money. My kids were watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and everything was right with the world. Now, Disney didn't want to do streaming back then. Well, now when the pandemic hit, Disney went to streaming full boat, right? They rushed into it so fast. Now they're creating content that probably shouldn't be created. They were ruining the Star Wars franchise. Have you heard about the latest one, the woke Star Wars? It's gotten the worst ratings of any series that has launched in the Star Wars genre. Is that terribly bad? The Acolyte thing. It's that terribly bad. So anyway, I haven't watched it myself. That's just what I've read. So Apple didn't even know how to put a streaming service together. We're still trying to crack the TV thing. We still haven't cracked that. Steve Jobs was trying to crack that, and before he died, he's like, I figured it out. Oh, here it is. And they're like, oh, what does this mean? I don't know. I don't get it. So in 2019, that's how the media industry was. Your traditional media people, your Peacocks, there's no Peacock, there was no Discovery Plus, there was no Apple TV. There was Hulu was like a fringy thing that you kind of sort of maybe watch something if it was free, but Hulu? What's a Hulu? So now, how many streaming services do you subscribe to? And did you cut your cable yet? We cut ours. So yeah, and we don't feel like we're missing anything. When there's severe weather, we turn on Hulu. We watch our local news channels. You can still get those over the air, by the way. When I want to watch Billy the Kid last night, I pop open Amazon Prime and oh shoot, I have to have a subscription to MGM Plus in my Amazon Prime account in order to watch Billy the Kid. Because MGM Plus, the Roaring Lion, you see at the start of the movies, they've got their own streaming service now. Everybody's got a stream now. How many are you subscribed to? You probably don't even know if you're subscribing on Amazon. You subscribe to it. Like you subscribe to HBO because you wanted to watch Game of Thrones. And then 3 years after you're done watching Game of Thrones, you're like, what is this on my bill? Oh, HBO? I don't need that. Kill it. But that Westworld show was kind of cool. Yeah, wow, what else do they have on here? Oh, you can watch The Sopranos? That's kind of neat. And you see what happens? So the way that everything changed in 5 years is just phenomenal. So here we are in 2024. In 2029 will be 5 years. We're going to be on Windows 12 by then. Some people will have Windows as a service. Most people will not because they're not ready for that yet. Where you don't have a hard drive, you just boot off the internet. And AI will have made us orders of magnitude more productive. Now, I'm not going to fall into the trap that everyone, we'll be working 20-hour work weeks and we'll have more leisure time for art, history, the humanities. No, that's not what's going to happen. We're going to become orders of magnitude more productive, and our employers are going to still work us 40 hours a week at our higher productivity level. And that's how the economy is going to grow, because we are Americans and we work. That's what we do. So AI is going to be a tool that gives us the capability to do so much more. When you are going to college and you're learning about whatever trade or craft or knowledge work you're going to do, and you get out of college, if you don't know how to use AI when you get out of college, you're like the guy that graduates college and doesn't know how to use ChatGPT or how to Google something. Like, literally, you're that guy. You're an undesirable employee because you're a low productivity employee. You have a low job skill set. You're going to get a crappy job where you're going to have to learn all the real things you have to do in life to get a good job, and you're going to move on. But what if you could short circuit that? What if you had all the technology that you needed in order to access these AI things as they were released and play with them while you had the time in the dorm room, or while you were curious if it could maybe save you time taking notes in class? And you come up with these novel approaches and you tell your friends, and then they get excited and they do things and they tell you about it. And then before you know it, you graduate college and you have a grasp, a technological grasp of AI tools. I mean, ask half of my staff, what was the last NFT they purchased? If you don't know what I just said, that's a perfect example, because in the last 5 years, non-fungible tokens, it's a form of crypto, non-fungible tokens became a thing. And you can make money with non-fungible tokens. You can trade them like stocks. You know, it's like trading fine art or not so fine art. Some people double their money with them. And they're cheap. You might buy one for $5 and sell it for 50. Look at that. So yeah, I'll put $5 in and see if I can make 50. And then when your friend does, he tells you about how much money he made buying the stoned monkey NFT or whatever. And then all of a sudden you go buy one and you make a little money and you tell your friend, and all of a sudden everybody's buying NFTs. You don't even know what it is. Now imagine that's AI and you're graduating college and you're going into a workforce full of people who have been using AI to leverage their employees' productivity for the last 5 years, and you walk in the door and you don't know how to turn it on. Imagine, though, that you're the guy that does know how to turn it on when you're coming out of college. That's what we're talking about doing. So we want to build a computer that will allow a college student to go to college, actually learn something that's going to help them in the real friggin' workforce, along with whatever skill or study they're doing. And then they, using their beautiful big human brain, can take all the things they learned in college and all the capabilities that AI brings to the table and put them together in a productivity producing powerhouse. How do we do that? All right, so let's start off with a computer. Let's start off with a mid-range computer, like the Endeavor. Endeavor sells for $800 typically. We know we're going to have to put a 4060 RTX graphics card in it. We know we're going to have to upgrade the power supply, and we know we're going to have to sell it with a webcam. The problem is we need a webcam that'll do Windows Hello. So we're going to have to do some research and plug in, can we buy a $20 webcam that does Windows Hello? Can we get a monitor with an integrated webcam like we did for the holiday special? Does the holiday special webcam do Windows Hello? We've never tried. We have one in the Papillion Service Center. It's slow this week. We're going to try. We're going to see if we hook it up. Can we set up Windows Hello using that webcam? And if so, that's the monitor that you need for this new back-to-school desktop if you're going to get the monitor for it. Otherwise, you have to buy a webcam for it. Or we have to package one with it or something. We'll have to figure that out. These are the details we have to work out. We know we need the webcam. We know we need the graphics card. And we know we need to have a computer that's got upgradability, which means it's going to be built on a socket that we know is going to be around in 5 years. Not the brand new fancy FP1 socket or whatever it's going to be. We want an AM4 or an AM5 socket, something we know it's going to be around. Then it's got to have enough. We don't know what the storage impacts of Microsoft Recall are, and that's just Microsoft's take on AI. If this approach proves successful for Microsoft, you better believe everybody's going to copy it, which means your computer could be storing a lot of analytical data for your own personal AIs. We can't give you a 256 gig hard drive for that. I mean, we could, but we wouldn't be doing you any favors in 5 years. You'd be replacing your hard drive. That's not what we're about. So we're going to look at a 1 terabyte hard drive, let's say. Well, okay, the Endeavor comes with 16 gigs of RAM. That's plenty to do AI work with. That's plenty to do school work with. So do we bump it to 32 just to flesh it out a little bit? Because the real expensive part of this, guys, is the graphics card and the power supply. I mean, we're talking about adding $400 on the cost side. Our cost, like what money we put on the table to buy the parts. It's $400 plus. That's not accounting the webcam. So call it $450. Now, if an Endeavor sells for $800 and we just add the cost of these parts in, we're at $1,200, $1,300. And that's damn near a holiday special. Do we need to up the specs to make it more like a holiday special to get people to look at it? But then if we do that, what are we going to do for the holiday special? This is going to get stupid. So yeah, I mean, it gets really complicated. So we're working on finding a way that we can build a computer that's going to have all the processing capabilities of a good mid-range computer. Not top of the line, not bottom of the barrel, but then we're going to give it an AI coprocessor, a boosted power supply, and a Windows Hello webcam, which will allow you to do all the Microsoft Copilot stuff, which is the first actual usable AI thing you're ever going to get, that you'll actually be able to do things with, that will make your life easier potentially. And if it's successful, if their model works, which they believe it will, but Microsoft's had a phone once, so let's just, slow the jets a little bit. If their approach works, other people are going to adopt it. If their approach has flaws, other people are going to learn from that. And you're going to see additional releases of, imagine Photoshop when, if you want to take someone out of the background of the picture, if you could just tap on that person and have them disappear. Well, what if you wanted to go back and find the original photo at some point? And you're like, there was a photo and there's 3 people in it, but there really was 4. Well, the AI will know that there was 4 in this one, but you deleted 1 to make it 3, so you probably think it has 3. So I'm going to also include pictures of 4 people that were edited down to 3. Because AI is going to be smart enough to do that. I'm saying, guys, it's going to build in ways that we don't even imagine yet, just like the streaming wars. Built and built and built and built and more streams. And finally, we're like, I'm paying more now for streaming services that I subscribe to than we originally were paying for cable. But remember when cutting the cord was going to save you money? Yeah, so that's what we're working on now from a laptop perspective, because some students are going to want a laptop. We were hoping to get away with a 3050 graphics card, but then we learned that you have to have a 4000 series card or better. That's going to blow. So yeah, now we have to find a laptop that is not going to be priced out at a holiday special. It's going to be a gaming laptop. That's what it's going to have to be. So we're looking at a gaming laptop that has a 4000 series graphics card in it and a Windows Hello camera with a decent processor, which most gaming computers are going to have a decent processor. The problem is they're going to be thicker and they're going to be heavier. Not super popular with college kids, right? Yeah. The other day we had a person come into the Omaha Service Center. The mom came in with her college student son, and she goes, I need to get you a laptop for school. And the kid's going into engineering. He's going to be doing AutoCAD. And, he's like, Mom, no, I don't need a laptop. I need a desktop, because the stuff we're going to be doing is going to require way more horsepower than a laptop has. And if I have a desktop, then I can change out the parts. I can actually upgrade it. So as the technology gets better, I can keep pace with it rather than buying a new laptop every 2 years. And the mom was literally just dead set that he needed a laptop. And so Dawson in the Omaha Service Center and the kid are like, Dawson's like, I hear you, buddy. I hear where you're going. I understand what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. But then we have to convince the mom that she's wrong, and the mom is the one with the checkbook. So, so yeah, I mean, this is stuff we go through all the time. So in reality, for most college students, a desktop is a better choice, especially if you're going into a higher end trade. But we also know that a lot of your education majors, people like that, are going to want a laptop. So we're going to have a laptop option. So then it gets us back to the minis. And the guys are like, Thor, we want to put the minis. We want to sell the minis. People want the minis. The minis are amazing. They're really great. But they're going to have the same AI problems that any basic laptop is going to have. You know, they don't have a webcam. They don't have a coprocessor. They don't have any AI capability. You're not going to be able to do AI with them. Now, but most of our minis, though, the reason we introduced the mini was honestly for Schrock business. Because think about like your hospital offices or you know, a dentist office or a chiropractor's office or something like that. They don't have a lot of real estate on the front counter, and they don't have room for great big towers. They want little computers. So we were going to get little computers and put the little computers there that performed as well as the big towers and would last 5 to 6 years. Less upgradable because they're kind of like laptops, but we can still do hard drives, memory, stuff like that. We can get different processors. That's going to be nice. From an AI perspective, we can't add a graphics card to that. So you're just out of luck. So there's a fit for the mini within the product. There's a type of customer that the mini is intended for. And then there's a customer who's going to try to shoehorn the mini into something it's not intended to be. And that's what I'm worried about in our model line. We have a very straightforward model line. We have 3 laptops, 3 desktops. Do we need to have 3 minis? Because we can. We can have the cheapo mini that's like really cheap, like a Celeron, kind of like the Resolute laptop. We could have the mid-range mini, which is like what we did for the Ultimate Upgrade sale, the Ryzen 5. And we can go all the way up to a Ryzen 9 with that thing. So, I mean, we could have a high-end, like a Venture Mini with 64 gigs of RAM and a backup hard drive in it. Yeah, and it's just this tiny little thing that sits on the desk. So maybe we go those routes. I don't know. So anyway, that's the process. Just to give you a glimpse behind the scenes of what goes in when we're trying to construct one of these computers, we have to try to balance the technology that you need with the technology that you want, because we know what you look at when you buy. You're looking at hard drive size, you're looking at memory amount, you're looking at speed, processor speed. On top of that, the processor speed measurements for AI chips are not gigahertz. There's some new acronym that I don't even remember. Like literally, I am learning this with you guys. This new acronym basically tells you how many AI computations per second can happen. And it's not gigahertz. So yeah, even the new NPUs, the neural processing units, aren't even measured the same way as regular processors. So how in the world do you compare them? It's a challenge, right? All right, let me get back into questions here. You'll never make me believe that Microsoft isn't going to raid the database on your machine and examine and analyze every byte of data. I bet you money there's a backdoor. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, what happens when you get a new computer? Is the database going to get uploaded to the cloud? Because the database would be a lot smaller than the actual images and stuff. And then Microsoft could say, we're not spying on you and recording everything that you do. The database is useless without the recall images, right? So the database says, oh, you're looking for this. You're looking for 3 people in a picture in Italy. That would be recall image number 4792. Well, that's great, but they don't have the image. They have the database with the data. And there is a value to that from an AI perspective. But then what good does it do to transfer the database without the data? You know what I mean? So how is this going to impact data transfers for future customers? I mean, these are the kind of things that we have to think about at Schrock. This AI stuff, for you guys, it's going to be like, oh, that's cool, that's going to be neat. And for us, it could completely re-engineer how we provide service. Not like using AI to serve you, but wow, when we do a data transfer, we got to move not only the database for this, but all the images, and we have to put them in the exact same place they were before. Otherwise, the whole database is going to break. And then we'll have people call us up, oh, I was trying to do a recall and it can't seem to find what I was looking for. Is there a reason after my data transfer that my recall is broken? And of course, we'll get that call like 2 years after we do the data transfer. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of concerns that are going to have to get worked through to get us to the end of this. But there were a lot of concerns about streaming 5 years ago to get us to where we are now. And we didn't have 5G internet 5 years ago. So mobile streaming was tough, right? You could do 3G, but it was choppy. And 4G, you could have a decent picture and actually stream it to your phone. But 5G, you can watch full HD as best the screen can deliver to you. It's kind of neat. Alrighty. A workstation level laptop would be astoundingly expensive. They're out there, but you're going to bleed for them. Yeah, like I said, the entry level Copilot equipped laptop is going to start at $999. We looked at an Asus model because I was like, oh look, they're going to come out with Snapdragon chips. What is this? That's a phone chip. Like what is this? What is this fudgery? And you start looking into it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, this is like a whole nother thing, like another branch of computing, honestly. That someone's going to ask me questions about this on the air. I got to learn all this. Oh God. But it's interesting stuff. So I'm reading up on it. I'm learning. I'm comparing the chips. I'm saying, I wonder how this chip would stack up against that chip. And Ryzen has 3 different levels of AI chips they're going to offer. Because we can't just have a simple AI chip. We have to have 3 different ones to choose from. They're all going to be on a different socket than the regular chips. So you'll have Ryzen chips and you'll have Ryzen AI chips. And because they say AI, people are going to want the Ryzen AI chips, and they're going to pay more for the Ryzen AI chips. But if you're going to buy our gaming computer anyway, if you're going to get a computer that has a graphics card in it, you don't need the AI chip. You already have the AI coprocessor in the graphics card. Now, if you're just going to buy an AI computer for an AI computer, it might be cheaper to buy the one with the one chip and not the graphics card. But if you're going to pay about the same price, you may as well have the multi-monitor capability that a graphics card gives you. Like you can have 3 monitors. That's kind of neat. You may as well be able to play a flight simulator game if you wanted to. Not that you're playing a lot of games, but if you wanted to, you could. You can't do that with an AI chip. It doesn't work that way. So there's trade-offs, and we just have to figure out where those trade-offs are at. But yeah, these AI laptops are going to be more expensive, which is why I was warning everybody, do not jump in and buy these Snapdragon X Copilot equipped Microsoft Surface computers. They look sleek, they look cool. They're going to be completely outclassed in less than 6 months by what's coming from Intel and AMD. Intel's chips have already shipped. AMD is going to have them shipping by the fall. So we're going to have some serious late night holiday special planning to do at the last minute. Usually we have the holiday special pretty much planned out in October. We were building September. We're building prototype models in October, and then in November we launch the sale. We don't know when in the fall the chip is going to drop. If the chip drops in September, we won't have an issue. If the chip drops in November, there's no way we'll have it in the holiday special in time. So we'll just have to wait for the following year. So a lot of it's going to depend on the release schedule. All right. Got it. We are completely caught up. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Ron. Ron's answering questions for Tamara. How fast is 600 megabit internet, and what does that mean? It's like the difference between a garden hose and a fire hose. Yeah. So dial-up is 56 kilobits per second. Okay. KB. High-speed internet is technically anything faster than that, but normally, for intents and purposes in modern times, it's anything that's 100 megabit or faster. However, your streaming experience on 100 megabit is not going to be great. You can get that from a satellite connection. It's not great. So you're going to want something that's over 300 megabit for wide home streaming device use, multi-device use, stuff like that. That's why Cox, for the package we're on at my house with 5 people and sometimes 5 or more devices popping at the same time, we have the gigabit. We have 1,000 megabit. But Cox can go up to 10,000 megabit now. So, I mean, you can get whatever internet you need to get, you can get. But 600 is more than enough to do just about everything a normal person is going to do, even if you have a family of 4 or 5 people doing it together. All right, last call for questions, guys, before we wrap it up here. But real quick, I haven't dove into the politics on this, but I wanted to make sure that I talked something about it so that if you've at least heard about it. But I saw a story, Friday, we're out on date night, double date. It was fun. Had a lot of fun with Janice and Ryan. But there's this golf place downtown we played called Fat Putter. I think it's Fat Putter. I don't know. It's the only mini golf place in downtown Omaha, okay? But it was the most fun mini golf. Like, if you think you're going to go play mini golf, you're like 18 holes, you hit the ball, there's like a maze, you bounce it off at the right angles, and you get it in the hole. This was completely a new take on mini golf. So there's two different places you can putt from to determine who putts from which circle. One circle is a direct line to the hole. Like, you get a hole in one. If you can sink a 10-foot putt, you're good. The other one, you have to go around an obstacle. So you're going to lose a stroke, basically, bouncing around the obstacle. But you're going to play Connect 4 to see which circle your team putts from. So there's Connect 4. They have, like, basically golf balls and a ramp, and there's all these slots like a Plinko game. And you hit the ball, and you have to hit it. I need to get a 1 in the 4 there, so hit it in the 4. You hit it over here, and you hit it over there, and you miss, or you block, or you try. So it's like playing Connect 4, but with golf balls and putters. And then that determines where you shoot from, and then you shoot, and then, yeah. It was just fun things, just really fun things. Like, there's a dartboard with Velcro darts, these giant Velcro dart bags. And you stand like 30 feet back, and you chuck these things at the dartboard. Of course, you want a bullseye. The bullseye is the hole. So wherever your dart lands on the board, that's where you putt from on the floor. There's a dartboard on the carpet. And you put your ball on the corresponding spot where your dart is stuck to the board. That's where you putt from. If you get a bullseye on the dartboard, well, that's the hole. So we were debating, when you're throwing these darts at the board, does that count as a stroke? Or does just the first stroke that counts? And I was like, well, if you get a bullseye, if it doesn't count as a stroke, that's a hole in 0. You can't get a hole in 0. So it has to count as a stroke so you can get a hole in 1. So, yeah, I mean, it was just really fun, right? So we're downtown, we're doing all this stuff. Double date date night. We end up at Ted and Wally's eating some ice cream afterward, and I whip out my phone and I pop open my news app, and I see mistrial in the Trump New York hush money case, the one that he's about to be sentenced on July 11th for. Like, mistrial? What are you talking about? So, yeah, it turns out that there was a post that was posted to the courthouse's Facebook page, a comment from somebody who basically said, my cousin is on the jury and he tells me Trump's going to get convicted. Thank you all for your hard work, to get Trump. So, what does this mean? Well, Judge Mersham, for some reason, has drawn attention to this by sending a letter to both the prosecution and the defense that we might have an issue with the juror in the juror pool. Now, for him to send the letter makes me think there's something to this. Because if it was just some guy, shit posting, people do that. They go on, like, my brother-in-law was in the Air Force and he said, it could have just been some guy typing, say, I have a cousin on the jury and he says Trump's guilty. Ha! Good job. But if this guy really is the cousin of somebody or something that's on the jury, then there needs to be some talking. We need to sit down with these people and say, what exactly were you told? If he was told by a person on the jury that Trump was definitely guilty before the case was done being presented, that's a mistrial. I don't know that I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal person. Like, I don't know the ins and the outs of how, like, the jury found a verdict, and now we have potentially a contaminated juror, and how is that going to impact the verdict? Is it a mistrial? Or is it just more of those, there was enough in this whole trial, guys, that was a reversible error. Trump is going to win this on appeal on any number of counts. The problem is he going to win it before they actually incarcerate him like they've done to Peter Navarro, like they're about to do to Steve Bannon? Are they going to put him in jail right before the Republican convention, number one? And number two, if they do that, any appeal he has isn't going to get, unless it's expedited dramatically in unprecedented fashion, it is not going to get through the New York appellate system, let alone to the Supreme Court, before the election. So if he's sentenced to 10 years in prison or a year in prison or whatever, 6 months in prison, like Steve Bannon's going to get out of prison just in time to vote. So I mean, it's ridiculous. So there was all that going on this weekend too. I thought I'd just bring that to your attention. There's a separate story where there is a federal court case going on for COVID relief money or something like that. Basically, there was an organized crime ring of immigrants that were running a food program, and they were getting federal pandemic dollars to buy the food for the food program, but they were embezzling the money. We're talking like $15 million. It was a lot of money. And there's a jury that's been impaneled. The people that were the ringleaders of this are going to trial for it. And one of the jurors lives with her dad. Ding dong, the doorbell rings, and dad answers the door. And lady's standing there with like an athletic duffel bag, and she's like, "Is so and so home?" And he says, "No, she's not here right now. But can I help you with something?" And he says, "Well, if you would please give her this and let her know that if the guy gets acquitted, there'll be another one just like it." And the dad's like, "Okay, have a great day." Shuts the door, unzips the bag, and there's 120 grand cash in the bag, like bundled bills. They were trying to bribe a juror to find a verdict. So immediately the juror does the right thing. Because imagine if you chose to keep the money. You got to admit you might be tempted for a second, right? But you keep the money, you find the guy not guilty for some reason, you hang the jury, and then maybe you get another bag of money, maybe you don't. You can't really complain to anybody if you don't. Then you get 120 grand. As long as you don't get caught, you got 120 grand. But if you get caught, so the lady did the right thing, and she called the FBI and said, "Listen, they just tried to bribe me." And the FBI comes out, they're like, "Holy crap, this is pretty brazen." And so she's excused from the jury now. Now she's contaminated, so she's out of jury duty. And the money's with the FBI, and they're trying to track down the lady that dropped off the money. And now both the defense and the prosecution are like, the defense guy, the lawyers have to be like, you gotta be FML, you gotta be kidding me. Because of course somebody from the defense wants the jury hung. So yeah, somebody on the defense just tried to buy off a member of the jury. They'll all claim, "Oh, it wasn't me. I didn't know anything about it. It was some other person that knows me maybe or something." I don't know. I don't know. So yeah. So there's a lot of jury shenanigans going on right now. All right. Let me check comments one more time before we wrap here. All right. I remember accessing local BBS on a 300 baud modem. Oh yeah, Aaron. Used to play Galactic Empire and the Crypt BBS here in Omaha. I remember we would, my friend and I, in the late 80s, early 90s, we would, using his computer with his 14.4 dial-up modem, we would call NASA's BBS in Florida, and you could download pictures that the space probes took and transmit them to your computer. So we would call, and of course, transmitting one JPEG photo at 14.4 baud, it's like a fax machine, but you're transmitting a high-resolution photo. It took like hours, right? Well, at the end of the month, my friend's dad gets the phone bill for all these long-distance calls to Florida's BBS, and he's like, this is going to stop now. We're like, "But it's for education." Like, "No, it's done." When do you plan to launch your cloud-based backup service? Will it be similar to iDrive? Oh, boy, Matt. All right. Do I have time? Okay, I'm going to spend just a couple minutes on this one. Conceptually, we're envisioning something different than what all the other backup services offer right now, because Carbonite, iDrive, all these big ones, you're going to back up your data. You can log into the app and you can access your backups and you can look at your files. You can download a specific file. You can recover a specific file. All that crap is great, and it's all crap you never use. You're not going to use it, okay? What do people want in a backup? If you're a business, what do you want in a backup? You get hit with ransomware. Everything is encrypted. Everything is screwed. What do? We restore an image back to the machine of what the machine looked like before it got infected with ransomware. Well, Thor, we don't have an image of every computer in our place. The backup software only backs up files, which is what everybody does, not images. Well, with Schrock's backup service, we want to back up images. And it's scary complicated, it's scary internet heavy, intense, and it takes up a lot of storage space. So we aren't going to be able to store your backups on Amazon's cloud, because we would have to charge you so much money that you would just go subscribe $30 or $50 a year for Carbonite or something. You wouldn't subscribe to Schrock's backup service because it was too expensive. So we have to build our own rack, put our own hard drives on it, create our own data center essentially, ensure that everything stays encrypted and firewalled, and then the concept that we have right now is for businesses. Let's start with business because we originally are creating this for Schrock Business. The concept that we have is we're going to take an image of whatever computer that we want to back up. That image is going to need to be stored somewhere. So if you have a 500 gig hard drive and you have 300 gigs of data on it, there's not enough room to take an image of 300 gigs and save it on the same drive. So we need to have a program on the local computer that will do the backup image and then transmit that image in real time as it's taking the image to a backup appliance that's on the network. So over the network to a mini, one of the Schrock minis basically, cheap one, Celeron mini, that is equipped with a 4 terabyte or larger internal hard drive that will receive the image. And there's a second piece of software that we've created on the appliance, and its job is to be the conductor. It's going to send the images up to the backup server. It's going to record that they were successfully transmitted because these are huge files. If we have a blip in the internet, we got to make sure they're perfect. So the files are going to get transmitted up to the server, and then a result will be sent down through API, through push notifications, text messages, whatever we decide to do, to let everybody know that the backup was unsuccessful. Successful backups don't need an alert. Successful backups need an alert. Failed backups or backups that were supposed to happen that didn't happen, those need an alert. Successful backups don't need an alert. Don't give yourself alert fatigue. So now we have backup images stored on the server. The problem is, what happens if you're a business and you have 5 computers in your business that you want to back up? If we transmit 5 images simultaneously up to the server, most people have, you guys are having a whole conversation about internet download speeds. I haven't seen a single person mention upload speeds. Yeah, I have 1,000 down and I have like 80 up. Your upload speed is way slower than your download speed. So if you're a business that has, Windstream internet, you probably, let's say you got 300 megabit internet. So you got enough internet to do everything you need to do in your chiropractic office. Your up speed is probably 20 megabit. So that means if I'm uploading 5 complete 500 gigabyte images, or maybe you have a server with 1.5 terabytes of dental x-rays on it or something, and we're uploading that to the server, that is going to take more than 24 hours to do. And if we use the full upload speed of your internet connection, we're going to cripple your internet the entire time. Which means when your people are trying to check people in or do stuff, anything they get is going to come down quick. But if they have to send anything up, they have to submit a search, they have to send a data string up for a search, it's going to take a long time. You're going to have a visible slowdown. So now we need something that's going to monitor the speed of the internet connection and only use a certain percentage of that internet connection between certain times, determine what's an off time and an on time, and then transmit the images to the server. And basically, we're not going to take a new image from the source computer till the previous image we took has been transmitted. So now we need the software on the first computer to talk to the software on the mini, and the software on the mini to talk to the server. So you see how it gets complicated? So that's for a business. What about consumers? Because we looked at the numbers for businesses, and we know that most of our business clients are going to subscribe to this. So, but even so, the construction cost of not one client app, but 2 client apps, plus a rack, plus the drives, you add up all the cost of doing this, and if you want to get a 5-year ROI, it's going to be expensive. Now, if we can roll a few hundred Schrock customers in, even at $50 a year, that brings our ROI like 2 years faster. So, how can we do this for consumers? We have the same problems, right? We have a computer that we need to do an image of, and we need a place to store the image. But I don't see my Schrock customers wanting to purchase a backup appliance, or not purchase it, lease it, basically. It's $25 a month for the backup appliance, and plug that into their network. Maybe some will. And in some environments, if you have like a computer with 10, or a household with 10 computers in it, essentially that's the same footprint as a business. So you would have the same setup as a business, right? But let's just say it's just you and your laptop and you want a backup service. Well, we need a place to save the image, right? So that's step one. Most laptops, you can't put a second hard drive in them. But you can put a micro SD card in that card slot. And almost all laptops have a micro SD card slot. So now we can get a 1 terabyte micro SD card now. They're that big. We looked into it, Parker and I looked into it the other day. We pop that card into the side of the computer, and now the local software on the computer checks to see if the backup drive is present. If it's not present, that means it died, which can happen with these cards. Or you ejected it accidentally. You know, that's bad too. But either way, it'll send an alert, hey, can't back up, the backup drive's gone. But then it will take an image of your computer, save it to the micro SD card, and then the local client software will directly transmit that up to the server without the need for an appliance. Problem, potentially, that we're still working through. If it's a laptop especially, you're used to opening the lid of your laptop, doing what you need to do, shutting the laptop. That's not enough time to take an image. So can the Windows integrated bare metal backup that we're using to create the images, can that operate in a suspended and resumed environment? So in other words, if you shut your lid and open your lid again, will it just resume? We have to test that. Number two, now you got the image when you have it on the micro SD card, but you're only using your computer when you need to do something and you're shutting the lid, putting it to sleep. We need to transmit what could be a 500 gigabyte image up through your residential internet connection, which is even slower than the business internet connections. You might only have 10 or 12 up. That's going to take a long time. So, yeah. So after a certain number of days, we tell you to please leave your computer powered on all night. Well, what if it goes into sleep mode? Now, if you buy a Schrock laptop, we program ours to never go to sleep when they're plugged in. They'll go to sleep if you're on battery. They'll save your battery. But if they're plugged in, they're programmed never to sleep. Once again, you can reduce your carbon footprint. If that's important to you, good for you. That's not important to us. What's important to us is that your technology, your tech works, does what you want to do when you want to do it. And that means it's not sleeping. It's working. Now, if it's on battery, there's a reason to sleep. We're preserving the battery power. If we're plugged into the wall outlet, you're not going to save the planet, okay? I'm just not trying to be insensitive, but the amount of power your laptop draws is not going to save the planet with your vampire charger or whatever else, whatever PSAs you've heard. You're not going to save the planet. It's not going to happen. So anyway, now we have to worry about how long it's going to take to broadcast the image up. So to answer your question directly, no, it's not going to be like iDrive, because we want to do something better, something different. So if you have iDrive and you get hit with ransomware, going back to a business, so you're a chiropractor, let's say, or a dentist, and you've got your Dentrix or your ChiroTouch software running on your server computer, and it has all the treatment plans, it's got all the x-ray images, it's got everything organized by patient, and a ransomware bomb hits you and encrypts all of that. Well, let's say you pay the ransom and you get the decryption utility and you decrypt it successfully, which is going to take days. But if you do that, it still doesn't make everything work again because everything is broken. The database is out of alignment now. The ChiroTouch software is missing files. There's stuff gone. And of course, you can't. The version you had needed to be upgraded anyway. So now you have the upgraded version, which requires you to update the database. And you're going to spend. That's why whenever one of these medical places gets hit with ransomware, I'm like, guys, 14 days minimum. 14 days minimum, and that's if they have the best backups available. Well, what would we do that was different? The whole point of Schrock Business is to do something for less money, better than what businesses are getting now. What can we do that is better? Let's take an image. We take an image backup. With that image backup, you get hit with ransomware, we go to our service center in Papillion because we're not going to transmit the image back to you. The reason it takes years, it takes literally weeks to recover a carbonite backup, a full carbonite backup. Literally, it takes more than 10 days. So we're going to go to the Papillion Service Center where this rack is at, where your data is going to be stored in a Schrock Service Center under Schrock control all the time behind a locked door. So yeah, and it's encrypted on top of that. So even if somebody digitally gets in, it's encrypted. We're going to take We're going to plug in a drive. We're going to download the encrypted backups to a portable hard drive. And then a Schrock business rep is going to get in a truck and drive them to your business. And then we're going to go to each of the computers. We're going to install a base copy of Windows. We're going to wipe it, install a base copy of Windows, install the software to decrypt the thing, put in your credentials, let it decrypt the backup, and restore it. And then that computer is exactly like it was the day the backup was taken. And we do that to every computer on the network. And then we bring the whole network back up. And if we've done our job right, within a single day, your ransomware crippled business is back up and running, and the only loss you have is however much time was taken between the backups. So we have an internet limitation. If you want to do a backup every day, you better have some godly internet to send those backups up. Because it's not going to take another backup till the first one transmits. If you're a consumer, same situation. Your hard drive dies, for example. Oh God, you bring it into a Schrock service center. And we're not going to transmit your whole backup over the internet. It'll take too long. It'd be literally faster to send a car to the Papillion Service Center and get your backup and bring it back to Omaha. It will literally be faster, even with our internet. So then we take your computer and we lovingly remove that piece of garbage hard drive that died. And we could send this to the data recovery lab where you could pay $1,200 to get your data back. We'll set that aside from now, put a pin in it. Then we're going to put a brand new hard drive in your computer. And we're going to install a base load of Windows on it. And then we're going to plug in this backup drive and we're going to restore your image. And your computer is instantly exactly the way it was before. Your settings are the same. Your backgrounds are the same. Everything is in the right place. Everything is updated to the point of the last backup. Amazing, right? Like, way better than data recovery. So now what are we talking about? You're paying $50 a year. I don't know how much a year it'll be. $50 a year, $75 a year for backup service that is image-based backup that you can't get. And you can get this stuff from like Carbon and everything, but you can't get that for $50 or $75 a year. You get file-based backup that allows you to recover your files. But then if you've ever tried to reinstall QuickBooks and then find your company file and import your company file into a new copy of QuickBooks, oh wait, they don't sell the desktop version anymore. Now you got to buy the cloud version and upload to the cloud. Or if you've ever had your copy of Photoshop with all of your actions and your brushes and everything that's all set up special, and you lose that, and you have to restore it, it takes forever. An image, it's like that. So that's what we want to do. That's what we have in concept right now. We have not started coding yet. We're still, what options do we need on the screen? And how are we going to, what do we need to do this or that? Do we really need a client app? Do we need the backup appliance? Could we just do this all from the local computer? Maybe put an extra hard drive in every computer. Oh, wow. So the cost of all the extra hard drives versus the cost of a backup appliance. The backup appliance sure would be more cost effective and streamlined and give us one point of failure instead of a point of failure on every device that we're backing up. The appliance makes a lot of sense. So yes, we need to build software for the computer to do the backup that has the ability to send it directly to the web if you're a consumer, or we need to also set up the software that's going to run, basically make the trains run on time, take multiple backups from a network and send multiple backups up to the online server in the Schrock Service Center. Then do we need to emulate this? These are backups, right? Let's say a tornado hits the Papillion Service Center and destroys the backup server. Well, if we put a new server up, you'll just do another backup, right? I mean, unless your computer was destroyed by the tornado too, and then that would be a problem. So on the highly unlikely event that one of our clients and the Papillion Service Center are both destroyed simultaneously by a tornado or a flood or a fire or whatever, should we have a second rack in the Des Moines Service Center that is emulated? So in other words, once a backup arrives on the rack here, we have a piece of software here that synchronizes the backups with Des Moines. Potential benefits. Let's say that Cox has an outage in Papillion and the backup rack is not available on the internet. So we're trying to upload to the server, but the server is not available because the internet's down. we could have a failover to Des Moines. And then Des Moines would synchronize back to Papillion when Papillion was online again. So there's a lot of planning to go into this, guys. That's my job. That's literally what I do at Schrock now. It's been a real adjustment for me in the last year and a half. Going from operationally being in a service center and determining labor hours and making sure repair times are under control and handing all that off to Parker, my operations manager, and then stepping back and saying, okay, what do we need to do next? And like the AI computer thing, I was like, I want to do a back to school sale, I think, guys. What do you think? Man, everyone in the meeting was like, that'd be great. And I said, well, there's this scary AI stuff I'm reading about. You think we could do a back to school sale and make it AI capable? And opinion was mixed. It seems that we had one dad at the table who was paying a third of his kid's college tuition for the first year, 10 grand a semester. And he's like, the last thing I want to do is buy an $1,100 computer for him. I'm going to buy him like a $500 piece of junk and send him on his way because, I'm already spending 10 to 20 grand a year on your college. Get it, but it doesn't solve the AI problem. If we sell these for like $1,100 a piece, which is what we would have to do at least to cover the cost of the increased hardware, it's like a holiday special light almost. Are we going to have a lot of takers that are buying the holiday special light to save $500? Maybe. $500 is $500. We might have people buying it for their own use, not even for kids' use, for school use. Is it going to be as big as the holiday special or the ultimate upgrade? Probably not. But who knows? You never really know until you do it. So those are the things that I have to do on a daily basis now. Okay. Let's see. Ron says the judge will not grant a mistrial. The current logic says the judge will put Trump in jail for some time. The judge wants to be known as the guy who put Trump in jail. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing the leaks of as well. 6 months at least. Okay, let's see. Everybody's talking about playing the crypt. I didn't play the crypt. I don't know what it is. All right, guys, I got to roll out. Thanks for joining us for the Aftershock today. Keep in mind, next week's show is going to be pre-recorded, so there will not be an Aftershock. So I wanted to go into all this stuff, especially some of the AI things with you while I had the opportunity to discuss them during the Aftershock today. But so next week we're going to do our deep dive into AI. We're going to give you some specific examples of how your life could change in the next 5 years based on your computer, what your computer technology is going to be able to do for you. Again, the sun is going to rise. The sun is going to rise. The sun is going to set. The same east-west direction that it sets and rises from now. The moon will be there. There will still be geopolitical conflict. We'll still have a president, whoever that is. The world around us is going to still be the world around us. But the technological change, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. So my wife, closing story. My wife she watched You've Got Mail the other day on Netflix. You've Got Mail, the Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks movie from back in the day where they met online and then had conversations. They didn't know each other, right? One of the first rom-com internet movies. At the beginning of that movie, there is like the starting credit roll. They've got a bunch of like 16-bit, 32-bit graphics that you would have seen on computer screens. Like there's a New York City skyline, but it's all like 1992 computer graphics. They put an explainer at the start of the credit roll that explained to the viewer that the images you're about to see are what computer graphics looked like at the time this movie was created. Maybe you were too stupid to figure that out on your own. Maybe. If you're a Gen Alpha kid watching You've Got Mail for some reason, you may not have figured out that those really old-looking computer graphics are from computer graphics from back when this movie was made, before the cell phone was around. Before there were smartphones. Before it's like, when AOL was still like the way to get on the internet. Colin Powell had an AOL account. It was great. Gulf War I. So when you think about that, that was like 1992, 1994, something like that, when that movie came out. Look at how far we have come from 16-bit computer graphics. Let's just call it, to make the math easy, let's call it 1994. So 34 years ago, we had dots on a screen, kind of like, remember the old newspapers? They had to have a bunch of dots to make a picture. If you looked really close, it was just a bunch of dots, but if you held it far away, all the dots came together to look like a picture. That's what our computer graphics look like. And 34 years later, we are sending 4K friggin' video through the air to a handheld device that is more powerful than the most powerful supercomputer in 1994. In the palm of your hand. Where on earth are we going to be 34 years from now? It's a fun thing to think about because technology is exponential. When you have technology, it allows you to create new technology at a faster pace. The new technology allows you to create new technology at an even faster pace. So you literally have this cycle where the only cycle you really have is economic. The only limiter on it is economic. Because how often are you going to buy a new phone? But it seems like the new phones that come out and they come out and they come out. We went to we went to the mini golf place and they don't give you the little pencil with the scorecard anymore. Who needs paper? There's a QR code on the wall. You scan it with your phone and it brings the score sheet up on your screen and you fill in the values and it calculates them all for you. So yeah, so lots of people are sitting there with their phone, they click it and they're scrolling left and scrolling right, doing that, and I'm just like, that's right. Open it up to tablet mode, baby. Look at that. I can keep score now. Even Ryan, who's a coding guy, was with me. He was like, whoa, that's cool. So that technology, this folding screen technology that allows this to happen, I remember covering that on Compute This when we were just a Lincoln show, so figure 15 years ago. We're like, DARPA has this new thing. It's like a screen, it's like a map that you can roll up. So it's like a digital map, but you can roll it up and take it with you. And that has now come to the point where you can fold it in half without a crease and have a screen that you can fold in half. Where are we going to be 34 years from now? It's 5 years from now, I feel confident I can give you some remotely accurate predictions. 34 years from now, I have no clue. I mean, what will I be? I'm 47 now, so I'll be 77, 80, 81? So what will technology look like when Thor is 81 years old? Interesting thought. All right, guys, got to roll. Have a great day, great week. We'll see you all next week, and we'll keep you informed on what we're going to do with this back-to-school computer thing. We're looking at a July launch for it, so we got a little time yet, but we'll let you know. Thanks a lot, guys.